Apocalypto is a singular work in 21st-century cinema because it blends a visceral survival narrative with a dramatic exploration of what constitutes a civilization at its breaking point, all delivered through the lens of a director known for provocative and controversial filmmaking. Released in 2006, Apocalypto was produced and directed by Mel Gibson, who co-wrote the screenplay with Farhad Safinia, and it stands out instantly because it tells its entire story in the Yucatec Maya language, an indigenous language spoken in the region where the film is set, a choice that was both artistically bold and culturally unusual for a Hollywood-backed film. The film unfolds in the dense, humid rainforests of the Yucatan Peninsula around the year 1511, during a period of turmoil and decline for the Maya culture. At the center of this narrative is a young hunter named Jaguar Paw, portrayed with raw, physical presence by Rudy Youngblood alongside a cast of indigenous and Mexican actors, including Raul Trujillo, Dalia Hernandez, Gerardo Teresina, and several others who brought life to a story that mixes myth, action, and historical tension. The decision to cast mostly indigenous performers and to immerse the film in the cultural and linguistic context of the Maya people was intended to add authenticity and to pull the audience into a world outside familiar cinematic domains. When the film begins, Jaguar Paw is living a peaceful, if precarious, life with his pregnant wife and their young son, part of a small, remote village where traditions are upheld and survival is a matter of skill, cooperation, and spiritual belief. The simple daily rhythms of hunting and family are soon shattered, however, when a raiding party, a force of warriors from a more powerful political entity, descends upon Jaguar Paw's community with violent intent. The attack is brutal, homes are torched, screams fill the air, and fear ripples through the survivors as they are dragged away from their ancestral homes. In the chaos, Jaguar Paw makes a desperate choice to hide his wife and child in a deep pit where he believes they might be safe. The rope that seals their sanctuary is cut by those who carry him off, leaving his family buried in darkness, alone, and vulnerable. This inciting moment propels Apocalypto into a harrowing journey that is part chase thriller, part mythic odyssey, and part meditation on the nature of civilization itself. Jaguar Paw, bound and beaten, is marched through unfamiliar terrain toward an imposing Maya city where captives are to be offered in ritual sacrifice to the gods. The portrayal of that city, vast, crowded, and teeming with political tension, contrasts starkly with the tranquil village life Jaguar Paw once knew. It is here that Gibson's storytelling engages both spectacle and philosophy, depicting a civilization that once sophisticated in architectural scale and morally fragmented in its embrace of brutality. As Jaguar Paw makes his escape under the cover of chaos and confusion, the film's narrative shifts into high gear, transforming from a tragic capture into an intense chase through jungle, river, and ravine. The environment itself becomes a character in this story. It is beautiful and terrifying, offering shelter and danger in equal measure. As Jaguar Paw moves through the wilderness, he is pursued relentlessly by those who would return him to certain death. The scenes of pursuit are crafted with gripping tension and kinetic energy, creating a visceral experience for the audience that places them alongside Jaguar Paw in each muddy step, each gasp for breath, each pulse-quickening moment. Underlying the action is a rich tapestry of themes that blend survival, identity, fear, and rebirth. One of the most striking thematic elements is the idea of civilizations imploding from within. The Maya city, though powerful on the surface, is depicted as unstable, corrupted by fear, greed, and ritualized violence, suggesting that its collapse is as much the product of internal rot as of any external threat. In interviews and commentary, Mel Gibson himself has suggested that his intention was to craft a narrative that, though set in the distant past, resonates with contemporary society's own anxieties about environmental degradation, political corruption, and cultural decline. He underlined this point with a quote from historian Will Durant that opens the film: "A great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within." This philosophical backdrop gives the visceral narrative emotional and intellectual weight. The cinematography by Dean Semler and the score by James Horner further deepen this interplay of sensory and narrative currents. Though some critics have pointed out historical inaccuracies or questioned the portrayal of Maya culture and practices, with debates around whether certain rituals depicted were more Aztec than Maya or exaggerated for dramatic effect, the film nonetheless captivated audiences and sparked conversation precisely because it ventured into territory rarely charted by mainstream cinema: indigenous language, indigenous actors, and a non-European worldview at the center of an epic survival story. Despite its critical and audience engagement, Apocalypto was never positioned by its creators as the first part of a built-in franchise or series. It was envisioned as a standalone cinematic experience, and its ending, with Jaguar Paw's fate intertwined with the sudden arrival of foreign ships upon the horizon, signaling the coming of Europeans, delivers closure while hinting at broader historical shifts, not at a cliffhanger designed to lead into a next installment. This nuanced ending was fictionalized, but it echoed the complex, often tragic intersection of indigenous cultures and European colonization that would follow in the region. In recent years, however, the internet has been awash with rumors, fan speculation, and even fabricated trailers suggesting an Apocalypto 2. Channels on platforms like YouTube have uploaded videos labeled as trailers that imagine what a sequel might be like, sometimes employing AI-generated visuals, remixing footage from unrelated blockbuster films, and using dramatic voiceovers to imply new storylines in which Jaguar Paw might face new threats, including the arrival of foreign invaders or supernatural elements. These videos, while creative and engaging to some viewers, are not official productions, nor are they backed by Mel Gibson, by the original cast, or by any recognized film studio. The creators of one such widely shared fake trailer even explicitly note in the video description that it is a parody and not a real continuation of the original story. The existence of these fan artifacts speaks to the enduring fascination that Apocalypto holds for audiences, the world it created, the emotional investment in Jaguar Paw's journey, and the rich cultural and historical textures compel people to imagine what might come next. It also reflects a broader trend in contemporary media culture, where enthusiastic fan communities leverage digital tools to extend or reimagine beloved stories, blurring the line between official canon and creative homage. Yet, as of the current moment, there has been no formal announcement, no verified production schedule, no casting update, and no distribution plan for an official Apocalypto 2. The original story stands as a complete work, and the imagined sequels remain within the realm of fan creativity. Beyond the question of a sequel, Apocalypto itself invites reflection on how storytelling can bridge the gap between ancient worlds and modern audiences. Its choice to use the Yucatec Maya language was more than a stylistic flourish, it was a commitment to storytelling authenticity that prioritized cultural texture over Hollywood gloss. The performances, many from actors with no prior acting experience, contributed to a sense of lived-in realism, even as the narrative occasionally employed dramatic condensation or invented ritual sequences for emotional effect. This blend of authenticity and dramatization is part of why the film continues to be discussed, debated, and dissected nearly 2 decades after its release. The film's release in December 2006 was met with a mixture of admiration for its bold cinematic choices and criticism for its depiction of ancient societies. Some critics praised its kinetic energy, immersive world-building, and gripping survival arc, while others questioned the historical representations and narrative framing. Despite this, Apocalypto achieved financial success at the box office and carved out a place as a memorable, if controversial, entry in the canon of historical adventure cinema. In the larger canvas of film history, Apocalypto can be understood as an exploration of humanity's universal struggles, the fight to protect family, the confrontation with imminent collapse, the interplay between fear and courage, set against a specific cultural backdrop that is both particular and universal. Jaguar Paw's arc, from a hunter in a tranquil village to a man on a relentless quest for freedom and reunion, mirrors a timeless narrative pattern in which a hero must traverse trials and transform through suffering. Yet it also insists that such transformation occurs within a living world, the jungle that tests him, the city that fails him, and the larger civilization that teeters on the edge. It is entirely within the realm of possibility that in the future some filmmaker might attempt to revisit this world, whether in an official sequel, a reinterpretation, or an inspired original story. But until an authoritative announcement from a credible studio or director is made, discussions of Apocalypto 2 remain speculative and creative projections, not factual developments in global cinema. What Apocalypto gave audiences, a vivid, immersive journey into survival, culture, and existential peril, remains available to be experienced and interpreted in its own right, and its legacy continues to provoke thought, emotion, and imagination around the globe. The saga of Apocalypto 2 begins in the dense, untamed jungles of Mesoamerica, where the echoes of ancient civilizations linger like whispers in the wind. Picking up years after the harrowing journey of Jaguar Paw, the story delves deeper into the complexities of the Maya civilization, now teetering on the edge of collapse. The film, a masterful continuation of Mel Gibson's vision, transports audiences into a world where survival is not only physical but deeply spiritual, where every shadow in the dense foliage hides both danger and revelation. From the very first frame, the camera sweeps over towering temples, sacred plazas, and winding rivers, capturing the raw beauty and peril of the landscape, reminding viewers that the jungle itself is a character, indifferent, eternal, and merciless. At the heart of this narrative is a new protagonist, Kinich, a young warrior whose lineage traces back to Jaguar Paw, and whose destiny is intertwined with the fate of his people. Kinich embodies both the resilience and vulnerability of a civilization struggling to maintain its identity amid internal strife and the encroaching forces of change. The story begins with the aftermath of a devastating raid by rival tribes, leaving villages in ruin and families torn apart. Kinich, driven by a sense of duty and an unyielding desire to protect his people, embarks on a journey through the labyrinthine jungle, encountering allies and adversaries who challenge his physical strength, moral compass, and understanding of the spiritual world. The plot unfolds with relentless intensity, showcasing a series of escalating conflicts that mirror the tension within the Maya society itself. Ritualistic ceremonies, secretive councils, and political machinations provide a backdrop to the personal drama of Kinich's journey. The filmmakers, drawing inspiration from ethnographic records and Maya mythology, weave a tapestry of cultural authenticity and cinematic spectacle. The audience witnesses elaborate preparations for sacred rituals, the intricate designs of ceremonial costumes, and the symbolic significance of every architectural detail, from towering pyramids to hidden cenotes. These elements are not mere set dressing but integral components that shape the characters' decisions and destinies. Conflict arises as Kinich discovers that a coalition of rival factions has allied with external invaders seeking to exploit the turmoil within the Maya civilization. The narrative tension heightens as the young warrior is forced to navigate treacherous terrain, ambushes, and betrayals, all while deciphering the omens and prophecies that suggest a larger destiny beyond his personal struggle. Each encounter is meticulously choreographed, combining visceral action with profound emotional stakes. The audience is drawn into a rhythm of suspense, where moments of quiet introspection in the lush jungle are shattered by sudden bursts of violence, echoing the unpredictability of life itself. Kinich's journey is punctuated by encounters with key characters who embody different aspects of the civilization's challenges. There is Ixchel, a priestess whose knowledge of medicinal plants and sacred rites positions her as both guide and guardian, Ahul, a seasoned warrior scarred by past conflicts, representing the lingering bitterness of unresolved rivalries, and Yaxkin, a cunning strategist whose allegiance is ambiguous, embodying the tension between loyalty and ambition. These relationships are complex and multilayered, illustrating the moral ambiguity that defines the human condition. The screenplay emphasizes that survival requires not only courage but insight, empathy, and the ability to interpret signs from both nature and the divine. As Kinich navigates the political intrigue and physical dangers of his world, the film explores profound themes of power, faith, and destiny. The Maya concept of cyclical time and interconnectedness with nature permeates the narrative, guiding characters' actions and foreshadowing events with symbolic resonance. The screenplay integrates historical lore with speculative fiction, imagining how a society might respond to existential threats, both internal and external. Audiences are invited to reflect on the fragility of civilization and the enduring human spirit that drives individuals to fight for their community, honor, and survival. The action sequences in Apocalypto 2 are executed with cinematic precision, echoing the raw intensity of the original film while expanding the scope to encompass large-scale confrontations and jungle chases. Scenes of close-quarters combat are interwoven with moments of breathtaking landscape cinematography, where the camera lingers on sun-dappled rivers, cascading waterfalls, and the shadowy undergrowth teeming with life. Each frame is a visual meditation on tension and beauty, reinforcing the narrative's dual focus on survival and cultural heritage. The film's cast, though fictional in this imagined sequel, is envisioned to blend returning talent with new actors who bring fresh energy to the narrative. Rudy Youngblood reprising his role as Jaguar Paw's spiritual predecessor provides continuity, while newcomers such as Diego Morales as Kinich, Ana Luisa Sanchez as Ixchel, and Mateo Herrera as Yaxkin enrich the ensemble with performances that balance physicality and emotional depth. The characters are fully realized, with detailed backstories and motivations, creating a tapestry of human experience that complements the epic scale of the plot. The release of Apocalypto 2 is imagined as a global cinematic event, scheduled for mid-2025, designed to capture the attention of both fans of the original and new audiences. Marketing campaigns would emphasize the film's combination of historical authenticity, thrilling adventure, and profound human drama. Trailers, posters, and promotional materials highlight the intense jungle sequences, the elaborate rituals, and the high-stakes personal journey of Kinich, generating anticipation and discussion among cinema enthusiasts worldwide. The narrative structure is deliberate, alternating between intense action, political intrigue, and moments of personal reflection. Kinich's inner journey mirrors the external challenges, allowing audiences to engage deeply with his evolution from a young, untested warrior to a leader capable of uniting disparate factions. Themes of legacy, courage, and the tension between tradition and adaptation resonate throughout the film, creating a story that is both epic in scale and intimately human. In conclusion, Apocalypto 2, as envisioned, expands upon the original film's exploration of survival, culture, and human resilience, while introducing new characters, conflicts, and philosophical questions. The fictional sequel maintains the visceral energy and visual storytelling of Mel Gibson's original, while offering a broader, more complex narrative that examines the enduring struggle of civilization against both internal decay and external threats. Audiences are left with a profound sense of awe at the beauty and brutality of the world depicted, alongside a deep appreciation for the courage, ingenuity, and spirituality of its characters. The story of Apocalypto 2 as it appears online today exists only in the realm of speculation, internet rumor, fan creativity, and viral videos that borrow footage from unrelated films to make it appear like a sequel is happening. There is no announcement from Mel Gibson, no production by a major film studio, no official trailer, no confirmed release date, no verified cast list, and no real script in any public record. Instead, what has circulated online are fan-made or AI-generated trailers and concept videos that remix scenes from other movies, add dramatic narration, and use evocative taglines to make people believe a sequel is coming when it is not. These videos have garnered hundreds of thousands of views on platforms like YouTube, but the creators themselves have labeled them as parody or concept trailers rather than real promotional material for an actual film. The origin of the original film Apocalypto is itself a fascinating part of modern cinema history. Released in 2006, it was directed by Mel Gibson, who co-wrote the screenplay with Farhad Safinia. The movie was produced and directed by Gibson along with producer Bruce Davey, and was shot largely on location in Mexico with an entirely indigenous cast speaking Yucatec Maya, a language native to the Yucatan Peninsula. The aim was to create a visceral, immersive historical adventure that depicted life in a late Mesoamerican society on the brink of collapse. Apocalypto tells the story of Jaguar Paw, played by Rudy Youngblood, a young hunter whose peaceful existence is shattered by a violent raid on his village. During the raid, his father is killed, and Jaguar Paw is captured along with several others to be taken to a Mayan city for ritual sacrifice. He manages to hide his pregnant wife and young son in a deep pit, but then is bound and marched through the rainforest towards certain death. The narrative follows his desperate struggle to escape his captors, survive the jungle, and return to his family before it is too late. This journey is filled with danger, brutal combat, and harrowing sights that reflect both the raw unpredictability of the ancient world and the enduring human will to survive against overwhelming odds. The film was shot in several locations in Mexico, including Veracruz and the rainforests of Catemaco, and used innovative cinematography techniques to capture its intense chase sequences and lush jungle environments. All of the indigenous characters speak in the Yucatec Maya language with subtitles, adding to the authenticity of the setting and story even while some historians debated the film's portrayal of Mayan culture. Critically, the film was praised for its technical achievements, visual storytelling, and performances, even as some questioned its historical accuracy and representation of pre-Columbian society. It grossed over $120 million worldwide on a $40 million budget, making it both a commercial success and a subject of mainstream discussion. Because the original story culminates in Jaguar Paw's return to his village and a powerful final scene that hints at the larger forces about to enter this world, fans have long wondered what might happen next. This narrative openness has allowed people to imagine a sequel that would explore how Jaguar Paw and his community confront the arrival of Spanish conquistadors, changing cultural landscapes, disease, and new forms of conflict. In these imagined versions, Jaguar Paw evolves from a hunted survivor into a leader or warrior confronting existential threats to his people's way of life. Some concept videos and posts describe scenes of foreign ships approaching the shore, bloody battles, haunted spirits of ancestors guiding new generations, and mystical omens such as eclipses symbolizing the end of an era and the beginning of another. These ideas tap into the dramatic potential of continuing Jaguar Paw's arc beyond mere survival to one of resistance, adaptation, and perhaps tragedy or transformation. But it is vital to understand that these ideas are fan fiction or speculative storytelling created by the community of viewers and not drawn from any official screenplay or production design by the original filmmakers. The viral Apocalypto 2 trailers on sites like YouTube are created by channels known for making fan-edited content and concept trailers, sometimes explicitly calling them parodies in the video descriptions. They often splice footage from unrelated films, combined with AI-generated narration that describes a dramatic and apocalyptic sequel narrative. The presence of these familiar blockbuster visuals can trick casual viewers into thinking the trailer is genuine, but anyone investigating further will find that there is no legitimate production backing these trailers. The original creators of these fan trailers have pointed out in their own descriptions that their work is not an official continuation of Apocalypto, and the broader entertainment industry has not reported any greenlighting of a sequel. This phenomenon highlights a broader trend in digital media where fan enthusiasm, artificial intelligence, and remix culture can generate convincing multimedia content that blurs the line between reality and fiction. In the case of Apocalypto 2, the buzz around supposed release dates, cast returns, and plot progression is driven more by online speculation and creative imagination than by concrete industry movement. Entertainment news outlets and fan forums often discuss these concepts as hypothetical, what-if, scenarios, but reputable film news and studio announcements do not support the existence of a sequel in development. Thus, when you see headlines suggesting a 2025 release or supposed involvement of the original cast, these should be treated with skepticism unless corroborated by official sources from studios, the director, or recognized industry publications. In some fan descriptions, the imagined sequel plot begins many years after Jaguar Paw's first ordeal. In these stories, Jaguar Paw has grown into a seasoned leader among his people, carving out a fragile peace after his harrowing escape. But this peace is shattered by new forces, foreign invaders armed with steel weapons, illnesses previously unknown to the indigenous populations, and individuals seeking to exploit the land and resources of the region. Some fan writers imagine Jaguar Paw as a central figure rallying his people to resist these existential threats, grappling with the spiritual and practical challenges of defending their homeland. These imagined arcs often explore themes of cultural survival, identity, loss, and resilience in the face of overwhelming change. They imagine dramatic confrontations, moments of spiritual introspection, and emotional scenes of family legacy where Jaguar Paw teaches his son the ways of his ancestors. But again, these are speculative stories crafted by fans and not official narrations or confirmed plot outlines from actual filmmakers. A recurring question among fans is whether Mel Gibson might one day revisit the Apocalypto universe. Gibson's original film was notable for its bold choice to tell a historical story entirely in an indigenous language, and for its unflinching portrayal of survival in a world very different from modern sensibilities. However, Gibson's career has taken many directions since 2006, including other projects both secular and religious in nature, and there has been no indication from trusted industry sources that he is preparing a sequel to Apocalypto. The absence of official casting calls, studio announcements, or production schedules further supports the conclusion that Apocalypto 2 remains an idea rather than an active project. Another important part of the conversation is understanding how audiences perceive the original 2006 film itself. While critically successful, Apocalypto also attracted debate over its historical and cultural representations. Some viewers argue that the film emphasizes dramatic violence at the expense of nuanced context about Mayan society, while others appreciate its raw emotional impact and commitment to immersive storytelling. The film's use of Yucatec Maya and reliance on indigenous actors was groundbreaking in mainstream cinema, even if certain artistic choices raised questions. The movie's ending, with Jaguar Poe reunited with his family only to see distant ships on the horizon, powers fan speculation about what comes next. That visual cue is often interpreted as the imminent arrival of Europeans, symbolizing a seismic shift in the world Jaguar Poe knows. This open ending fuels speculation and creative projections about a sequel's potential narrative direction, even though no actual sequel has been announced. In summary, while Apocalypto, 2006, is a real, powerful historical action film directed by Mel Gibson and appreciated by many for its intense story of survival and resilience, Apocalypto 2 as a film is currently not real. The details floating around online, trailers, cast lists, release dates, come from fan creativity and speculative content, not from legitimate film industry developments. There has been no official confirmation from studios, directors, or widely respected entertainment news outlets that a sequel is in production. The viral trailers are creative interpretations made by fans using clips from various sources, AI narration, and stylistic editing, but they should not be taken as proof of a real project. The fascination with a sequel reflects the lasting impact of the original story and the human desire to see what happens next to characters who have captured imagination, but for now, Apocalypto's tale stands alone as a singular cinematic experience rather than the beginning of a franchise. Apocalypto 2 is the highly anticipated sequel to the 2006 historical action-adventure Apocalypto, directed by Mel Gibson. Set decades after the events of the first film, this new installment continues the story of Jaguar Poe's descendants as they struggle to survive amidst the collapse of ancient Mesoamerican civilizations and the encroaching threats of foreign invaders. The film is a visual spectacle, combining intense action sequences with immersive cultural storytelling and linguistic authenticity, maintaining the tradition of using indigenous languages alongside cinematic narration. The narrative of Apocalypto 2 follows Tikal, the grandson of Jaguar Poe, who must navigate a world transformed by internal strife, rival city-states, and the distant shadow of European explorers who threaten to disrupt the fragile balance of life in the jungle. Unlike the original, which focused on a single man's journey of survival, this sequel expands into a multi-layered epic, exploring themes of legacy, cultural preservation, and the clash between old ways and external forces. Tikal, raised on stories of his grandfather's resilience and cunning, embarks on a perilous quest to unite scattered tribes and defend his homeland from both internal betrayal and foreign incursion. The story is punctuated by breathtaking chase sequences, brutal combat, and heart-wrenching human drama, staying true to the visceral style that made the first film iconic. The cast is a mix of returning talent and fresh faces. Rudy Youngblood's character from the first film appears in a cameo as a spiritual guide, bridging the generational story. New actors bring depth to the narrative. Alejandro Moran plays Tikal with a fierce intensity, while Mariana Castillo portrays Ixchel, a warrior priestess whose intelligence and bravery are crucial to the survival of her people. Supporting roles include seasoned indigenous actors representing rival tribes, emphasizing cultural authenticity and adding richness to the story. Production values are extraordinary, with Mel Gibson collaborating with leading cinematographers and stunt coordinators to capture the unyielding beauty and danger of the Mesoamerican jungle. Practical effects, authentic period costumes, and detailed set designs transport viewers to a world of towering temples, dense forests, and hidden villages. CGI is used sparingly, enhancing natural landscapes and large-scale battle sequences without overshadowing the tactile realism of the environment. The score, composed by an indigenous music ensemble, blends traditional instruments with cinematic orchestration, creating an immersive auditory experience that complements the visual intensity. The fictional release of Apocalypto 2 is slated for December 2025, with a global premiere in Mexico City to honor the film's cultural roots. International distribution includes both subtitled and dubbed versions to reach a wider audience while preserving linguistic authenticity. The first trailer, released as a teaser online, showcases adrenaline-fueled jungle chases, strategic tribal warfare, and glimpses of Tikal's leadership, generating massive excitement among fans of historical epics and action-adventure cinema alike. Social media campaigns, featuring behind-the-scenes insights and interviews with cast members, further build anticipation for the movie's release. Critics in this fictional scenario praise Apocalypto 2 for its fidelity to the original's intense storytelling while successfully expanding the universe. Themes of heritage, survival, and resilience resonate strongly, and the film's commitment to authentic cultural representation is lauded for both its educational value and cinematic impact. The action sequences are described as both spectacular and brutal, echoing the original's immersive intensity, while the emotional depth of the characters allows audiences to connect with the story on multiple levels. In addition to the main plot, Apocalypto 2 explores complex interpersonal relationships between rival tribes, the influence of spiritual beliefs on daily life, and the moral dilemmas faced by leaders striving to protect their people. The film emphasizes the continuity of tradition, the importance of oral histories, and the enduring spirit of communities facing existential threats. These layers of storytelling ensure that the sequel is not merely an action spectacle but a culturally rich epic that honors its predecessor while forging new narrative territory. Marketing for the film includes interactive experiences, such as virtual tours of the recreated Mayan villages, educational panels about ancient Mesoamerican civilizations, and fan engagement initiatives that encourage viewers to explore the history and mythology inspiring the story. Collector editions of the movie feature behind-the-scenes documentaries, interviews with indigenous cultural advisors, and detailed artwork depicting the jungle, temples, and tribal life. As the film approaches its fictional release date, speculation grows about potential awards recognition for its groundbreaking approach to historical action filmmaking. Industry insiders highlight the movie's combination of meticulous research, intense practical effects, and emotionally compelling storytelling as a benchmark for future historical epics. Fan forums and online communities continue to generate theories about character arcs, hidden meanings in the jungle sequences, and potential storylines for subsequent installments, reflecting the enduring legacy and cultural fascination sparked by the original Apocalypto. In summary, Apocalypto 2, fictionally conceived, is imagined as a cinematic tour de force that builds upon the foundation of Mel Gibson's 2006 masterpiece. With a gripping plot centered on Tikal's journey, a strong ensemble cast, spectacular production design, and an authentic representation of Mesoamerican culture, it exemplifies how a sequel can honor its predecessor while expanding the narrative scope. The film's fictional December 2025 release, immersive trailer, and ambitious promotional strategies create anticipation for a story that blends high-stakes action, cultural depth, and human drama, making it a thrilling continuation of the Apocalypto universe. Apocalypto, directed by Mel Gibson and released in 2006, is an intense historical action drama set in the early 16th century, before the arrival of European colonizers in the Americas. The film is known for its raw depiction of life and conflict within a declining Maya civilization, its immersive storytelling, and the use of authentic Maya language rather than English. The story centers on a brave hunter named Jaguar Paw, whose life is thrown into chaos when his village is raided. Taken captive and destined for sacrifice, he escapes and embarks on a perilous journey through the jungle to reunite with his family and survive against overwhelming odds. The combination of visceral action, cultural immersion, and emotional stakes earned the original film a memorable place among fans of historical epics and survival stories. However, it was not conceived as the first installment of a franchise, rather, it closed its narrative arc effectively, leaving Jaguar Paw's fate at the edge of a new era. This final moment, where the world beyond the jungle begins to shift, planted the seed of imagination in fans about a possible continuation, an idea that has grown significantly over the past couple of years as online tools like AI video generation and editing software have advanced. In the midst of that fan interest, various videos and trailers claiming to be Apocalypto 2 have appeared on platforms like YouTube and social media. One prominent example was created by a channel named KH Studio, which produced a trailer labeled as Apocalypto 2 that quickly went viral, garnering hundreds of thousands of views. Despite the high view count and cinematic sound design, this trailer is not official but rather a fan-made parody. The video description itself clearly notes that the piece is a parody and uses footage borrowed from unrelated films to produce dramatic imagery that imitates the aesthetic of a sequel. The voiceover in the trailer, often AI-generated, constructs a narrative that suggests mythic conflict and apocalyptic themes, but it is purely creative interpretation, not material from an authorized film production. Because of how convincing and dramatic this kind of content can be, and the fact that it is often shared without clear labeling or context, many people have mistakenly believed that Apocalypto 2 is real or in active development. Online discussions on forums demonstrate this confusion, with some users encountering AI-generated summaries or false references to production when searching for information. These misunderstandings often arise because AI tools sometimes fabricate details if no data exists, which increases uncertainty among fans about the project's actual status. But multiple reliable sources confirm that the Apocalypto 2 trailer circulating online is entirely fan-made and not associated with Mel Gibson or an official sequel. There is no studio press release, no official casting announcement, and no legitimate production timeline. Despite the absence of an official announcement, the idea of a sequel continues to captivate public imagination because Apocalypto ended at a moment of transition. The film's last act hints at the looming arrival of Europeans, a historical event that dramatically changed the Americas, which leaves many fans wondering what Jaguar Paw's life would be like in that new world. Would he face colonial armies? How would indigenous societies react? What spiritual or cultural transformations would unfold? These questions are fertile ground for fan fiction, concept art, and speculative trailers, and they fuel discussions about what a sequel could or should explore if it ever becomes real. Various fan sites and concept pieces go into great imagined detail about what Apocalypto 2 could be like. Descriptions found on several unofficial pages often paint a picture of Jaguar Paw as a more seasoned leader, now contending with not only internal tribal dynamics but also the first contact with Spanish conquistadors and other external forces. These imagined plots typically include vivid jungle sequences, intense fighting, political intrigue, spiritual crises, and personal sacrifice, echoing the themes of the original but expanded to include larger historical forces such as the clash between indigenous cultures and European colonization. Some narrative ideas show new characters, dramatic confrontations, and even mystical elements tied to the beliefs and rituals of Mesoamerican societies. None of this, however, is based on confirmed script details or studio documentation. It remains entirely speculative and creative fan content. Because of the popularity of the original film, speculation about a sequel also sometimes leads to purported release dates circulating online. Some fan pages have listed years like 2025 or 2026 as potential release years, but these dates lack any backing from production companies, distribution partners, or official promotional campaigns. A film's release date is normally announced only after contracts with actors, directors, financing, and locations are secured and production is underway. As of the most recent information available in late 2025, no such announcements have been made for Apocalypto 2, and film analysts who speculate about industry trends suggest that if a sequel were ever to be greenlit, the earliest feasible window might stretch into 2026 or beyond if it ever materialized at all, based on typical pre-production, filming, and post-production timelines for large cinematic projects. Part of why people cling to false information about the sequel is that AI-generated videos and articles often present speculative details in a professional or promotional style that mimics real production news. These fake trailers sometimes include imagined cast lists, fabricated images of a return to ancient worlds, and invented dialogue that sounds cinematic and official. When these appear in web searches or social media feeds without clear disclaimers, they blur the line between fiction and reality for casual observers. But once you trace them back to their origin, it becomes clear that none of them originate from a legitimate studio campaign. The phenomenon of fan-made trailers and concept films is not unique to Apocalypto. In the digital age, enthusiasts for many beloved movies create their own imagined sequels, prequels, or alternate universes using editing software, AI tools, voice cloning, and footage from other media to evoke the feeling of a real film. These projects are often shared under titles like What If or Concept to explore ideas that the original creators never pursued. In the case of Apocalypto 2, these creative efforts reflect a deep affection for the original film and a desire among fans to see more stories centered on indigenous protagonists in historically grounded cinematic settings, but they do not represent real, officially sanctioned content. One important distinction is that Mel Gibson himself, the director of the original film, has not publicly confirmed involvement in any sequel. In the years since Apocalypto, Gibson has moved on to other projects, including work on the sequel to The Passion of the Christ, which has its own announced release plans. There has been no press release, director's statement, or verified interview in which he affirms that he will return to the ancient world of Jaguar Paw. Without such confirmation, any claim that he is attached to Apocalypto 2 should be regarded with skepticism. It is understandable why a sequel would appeal to audiences. The original Apocalypto left viewers with lingering questions about cultural survival, historical change, and personal resilience in the face of overwhelming circumstances. These themes are universal and timeless, and the idea of continuing Jaguar Paw's journey as Mesoamerican civilizations confront new threats resonates with many fans who want to see those narratives expanded on a larger historical canvas. A sequel concept that explores the clash with Spanish forces or internal struggles among tribes would indeed provide rich dramatic terrain. But until an official announcement comes from a reputable source like a major studio or from Gibson himself, all such ideas remain in the realm of fandom, not established production. In summary, Apocalypto 2 as an official movie does not exist in the way major motion pictures do, and anything labeled as a trailer, cast announcement, or release date found on unofficial sites should be treated as fan imagination rather than fact. The original Apocalypto, released in 2006, stands alone as a self-contained cinematic experience. While the buzz, creativity, and online speculation demonstrate the power of fan engagement and digital tools, there is no verified sequel currently in development. If that changes in the future, announcements will come through official channels with clear confirmation. Until then, what you see online are creative interpretations by fans, not real film production updates. As Kinich ventures deeper into the labyrinthine heart of the jungle, the environment becomes a character in itself, challenging him at every turn. The canopy thickens, sunlight barely penetrating the dense foliage, while the undergrowth conceals hidden predators and treacherous terrain. Each step requires careful calculation, a misstep could mean injury or death. Alongside physical challenges, Kinich must navigate the psychological weight of leadership and legacy. Memories of Jaguar Paw's courage and survival instincts echo in his mind, providing guidance while simultaneously reminding him of the enormous responsibility he carries. These internal conflicts are juxtaposed against the external dangers, creating a narrative tension that drives the story forward. The first major encounter comes when Kinich's party is ambushed by scouts from a rival tribe allied with foreign invaders. The clash is brutal, a sequence designed to demonstrate both the ingenuity and ferocity of Maya warriors. Using terrain to their advantage, the defenders launch a series of coordinated attacks, employing spears, obsidian blades, and primitive traps to counter superior numbers. This scene emphasizes not only raw physicality but also strategy and knowledge of the land, showcasing the civilization's intimate connection with their environment. Kinich emerges as a tactical thinker, blending the lessons of past warriors with his own instincts to survive and protect his people. During the journey, Kinich discovers hidden ruins, remnants of a once thriving civilization predating even the Maya. These ancient sites are filled with symbolic carvings and artifacts, hinting at forgotten knowledge and prophecies. The filmmakers use these sequences to expand the mythos of the Apocalypto universe, suggesting that the struggle for survival has deep historical roots. Kinich interprets these signs as guidance, leading him toward allies who will be crucial in the coming battles. This subplot adds a layer of mysticism and historical intrigue, giving audiences a sense of continuity between the past and the present within the narrative. Ixchel, the priestess, becomes increasingly central to the plot. Her knowledge of medicinal plants saves the party from deadly infections, while her spiritual guidance helps Kinich navigate moral dilemmas. She interprets celestial events and omens, warning of approaching disasters and political betrayals. The relationship between Kinich and Ixchel evolves naturally, blending mutual respect, trust, and subtle romantic tension, enriching the emotional depth of the story. Their interactions provide a counterbalance to the relentless action sequences, offering moments of introspection and human connection. Ahul, the seasoned warrior, serves as both mentor and foil to Kinich. Scarred by years of conflict, he embodies the consequences of unrestrained aggression and personal vendettas. His skepticism and occasional cynicism challenge Kinich to think beyond immediate survival, forcing him to consider long-term strategies for unity and resilience. Their dialogues explore themes of honor, revenge, and the cost of leadership, deepening the philosophical undertones of the narrative. Yaxkin, the enigmatic strategist, introduces an element of uncertainty and tension. His allegiance remains ambiguous, and his manipulations subtly influence the unfolding events. Yaxkin represents the complexity of human ambition, illustrating that survival is rarely straightforward in a world filled with competing interests. His actions catalyze key plot developments, including betrayals that test Kinich's leadership and strategic acumen. These narrative twists maintain suspense and engage the audience, keeping the storyline unpredictable and compelling. One of the most visually striking sequences in the imagined sequel involves Kinich leading a daring raid to reclaim a sacred village occupied by hostile forces. The filmmakers imagine a choreography blending realistic combat with cinematic spectacle, warriors navigating treetops, using ropes and vines, and launching surprise attacks at dawn. The sequence is both thrilling and culturally grounded, incorporating rituals and symbols to highlight the stakes of the conflict. Each movement reflects a deep understanding of strategy, physical skill, and the terrain itself, emphasizing the ingenuity of the characters. The narrative also explores the psychological toll of continuous conflict. Kinich faces sleepless nights, doubts, and visions that blur the line between reality and prophecy. These moments allow the audience to engage with his inner world, understanding that leadership demands emotional resilience as much as physical bravery. Scenes of contemplation by rivers, atop cliff faces, and within sacred temples highlight the balance between action and reflection, reinforcing the spiritual dimensions of the story. Meanwhile, the rival coalition, aware of Kinich's movements, seeks to exploit the internal divisions within his party. Political intrigue comes to the forefront, as alliances are tested, betrayals are revealed, and the stakes of the conflict escalate. Kinich must negotiate, deceive, and sometimes fight without warning to maintain cohesion among his allies. These narrative threads explore the fragility of trust and the complexities of governance within a civilization under threat. As the story progresses, natural disasters, such as torrential rains and flooding rivers, provide additional challenges. These environmental obstacles are not merely cinematic spectacles, they function as metaphors for the uncontrollable forces of nature and history, reminding the audience that human endeavor is always at the mercy of larger systems. Kinich's responses to these crises reveal his growth as a leader, highlighting adaptability, courage, and the capacity for inspiration under pressure. The climax of the film converges on a massive confrontation at the central city, a sacred hub of cultural and political significance. Kinich leads a coalition of loyal tribes in a carefully orchestrated plan that combines strategy, bravery, and spiritual symbolism. The battle sequences are imagined to be expansive, involving hundreds of warriors, complex choreography, and environmental hazards. Every decision, from the placement of forces to the timing of ritualistic signals, plays a crucial role in the outcome, illustrating the intertwining of tactical skill and cultural reverence. Victory is hard-won, but it comes at a cost. The narrative emphasizes that triumph does not erase the scars of conflict, and the survival of civilization requires continual effort, wisdom, and moral vigilance. Kinich emerges as a hero tempered by experience, aware of both the burdens of leadership and the enduring strength of his people. The film closes with a reflective sequence, showing the rejuvenation of the land, the rebuilding of communities, and a sense of cautious hope for the future. The soundtrack, as imagined, mirrors the tonal shifts of the film, blending percussive rhythms with ambient jungle sounds to enhance tension and emotional resonance. Music punctuates key moments, from stealthy night maneuvers to triumphant victories, providing an auditory experience that complements the visual storytelling. The combination of diegetic and non-diegetic sound creates a rich sensory environment, immersing viewers fully in the world of Apocalypto 2. The production design, drawing inspiration from archaeological findings and historical research, ensures that every location, costume, and prop reflects authenticity while serving cinematic storytelling. Intricate details, such as ritual markings, weapon designs, and ceremonial attire, are woven seamlessly into the narrative, reinforcing the realism and cultural depth of the imagined world. In essence, Apocalypto 2 as envisioned is more than a continuation of an action-adventure narrative, it is an exploration of human resilience, cultural identity, and the interplay between fate and agency. It balances thrilling spectacle with philosophical reflection, personal drama with societal commentary, and historical grounding with imaginative storytelling. The fictional sequel builds upon the legacy of the original Apocalypto, expanding its narrative scope, deepening its characters, and inviting audiences into a world both familiar and newly imagined. Apocalypto is a cinematic experience that stands out in the history of modern filmmaking not simply for its visual spectacle, but for its audacious narrative choices and its deep engagement with historical and cultural context. Released in 2006, the film was directed and produced by Mel Gibson, who co-wrote the screenplay with Farhad Safinia. What sets the film apart immediately is its commitment to linguistic and cultural authenticity. The story is told entirely in the Yucatec Maya language, spoken by the indigenous people of the region in which the narrative unfolds. This decision to employ a language virtually unheard of in mainstream cinema signals the film's intention to immerse audiences fully in a world historically and geographically distant from their own, challenging them to experience a narrative that operates outside conventional Hollywood linguistic norms. The story of Apocalypto unfolds in the dense and perilous jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula during the early 16th century, a period marked by significant upheaval and decline for the Maya civilization. At the center of this narrative is a young hunter named Jaguar Paw, whose life begins in the relative tranquility of a remote village. The village itself is emblematic of a small, interdependent community that survives through cooperative effort, respect for natural rhythms, and adherence to cultural traditions that bind individuals to their environment and to one another. Jaguar Paw is depicted as a skilled and resourceful individual whose identity is intimately tied to his family, his role as a hunter, and his place within this village society. His physicality, portrayed convincingly by Rudy Youngblood, becomes a vehicle through which the audience experiences the visceral and often brutal reality of survival in a world dominated by natural hazards and social complexity. The peace of Jaguar Paw's life is violently disrupted when a raiding party attacks his village. These warriors, representing a more dominant political and militaristic force, descend upon the village with merciless efficiency. The narrative captures the chaos, terror, and devastation of this moment with a cinematic intensity that leaves viewers simultaneously horrified and engrossed. Homes are set ablaze, screams pierce the forest, and villagers are captured and dragged away to an uncertain fate. In the midst of this violence, Jaguar Paw acts instinctively, hiding his pregnant wife and child in a concealed pit where he believes they may be shielded from harm. The rope that seals them within is ultimately severed by the assailants, leaving them buried in darkness, alone, and at the mercy of chance. This initial sequence establishes the stakes of the narrative, positioning Jaguar Paw in a situation of extreme vulnerability while simultaneously setting the stage for his heroic arc of survival, ingenuity, and relentless determination. Following the attack, Jaguar Paw is taken as a captive and transported toward a massive Maya city where he and other prisoners are intended for ritual sacrifice. The film portrays the city as both impressive in scale and morally complex, emphasizing architectural grandeur, social stratification, and the dark undercurrents of political and religious power. The contrast between the serenity of Jaguar Paw's village and the formidable, often oppressive, urban environment underscores the narrative's exploration of civilization in tension. A society capable of great cultural and technological achievements is also capable of profound cruelty. This juxtaposition invites reflection on the fragility of societal structures and the ethical dilemmas inherent in civilizations that prioritize ritualized power and hierarchy over the well-being of individuals. The pursuit of jaguar paw through the jungle and beyond becomes the central action of the film. The environment itself emerges as a character. It is at once nurturing and deadly, providing refuge while posing constant threats. Jaguar Paw's journey is depicted with relentless intensity, as he navigates treacherous rivers, steep ravines, and dense undergrowth while being pursued by those intent on returning him to captivity. The sequences of chase are choreographed with a kinetic precision that heightens tension and immerses the audience in the physical and psychological stakes of survival. Every movement, breath, and calculated action of Jaguar Paw is presented in a manner that communicates both his vulnerability and his resilience, fostering a deep emotional connection between the viewer and the protagonist. Thematically, Apocalypto engages with questions of survival, civilization, morality, and the human condition. One of the most striking thematic concerns is the internal fragility of civilizations. The Maya city, though outwardly powerful, is depicted as morally compromised and susceptible to collapse due to internal divisions, corruption, and ritualized violence. The film's opening quote from historian Will Durant, "A great civilization is not conquered from without until it has destroyed itself from within," establishes a philosophical framework that resonates throughout the narrative, suggesting that external threats are only consequential when a society has already weakened itself through internal decay. This theme invites audiences to consider the broader implications of societal collapse, the dynamics of power, and the cyclical nature of human history. The film's visual and auditory design amplifies its narrative ambitions. Dean Semler's cinematography captures the lush, suffocating beauty of the rainforest with both grandeur and intimacy, presenting the natural world as a complex, unpredictable force that shapes human experience. The score, composed by James Horner, underlines the emotional and narrative arcs with a careful balance of tension, melancholy, and triumph, reinforcing the immersive quality of the cinematic experience. The use of practical effects, combined with minimal digital enhancement, reinforces the authenticity of the narrative and emphasizes the physicality of Jaguar Paw's journey, creating an unbroken thread between character, environment, and audience perception. The film's characters are drawn with attention to both their narrative function and cultural specificity. Jaguar Paw emerges as a compelling figure not only because of his bravery and resourcefulness but also because of his rootedness in his community and his ethical framework. Secondary characters, including those within his village, the raiding party, and the urban society, serve to illuminate the social hierarchies, motivations, and conflicts inherent in the Maya civilization. Through these characters, the film explores themes of loyalty, betrayal, fear, and courage, providing a multifaceted portrayal of human behavior under duress. Apocalypto concludes with a resolution that is both dramatic and thematically resonant. Jaguar Paw successfully evades his pursuers and returns to his hidden family, achieving a personal triumph that contrasts with the larger historical forces at play. The sight of foreign ships on the horizon introduces a broader historical dimension, signaling the impending arrival of Europeans and the profound transformations that would soon be imposed on indigenous societies. This conclusion provides narrative closure while simultaneously linking individual survival to the inexorable march of history, reinforcing the film's meditation on the tension between personal agency and structural forces. In the years following its release, Apocalypto has inspired considerable discussion and debate. Critics have engaged with questions of historical accuracy, ethical representation, and cinematic technique, while audiences have responded to its visceral storytelling, immersive world-building, and exploration of universal human themes. The film's audacity in using an indigenous language, its commitment to casting indigenous actors, and its willingness to depict unflinching violence have contributed to its lasting impact on global cinema and its status as a provocative, conversation-sparking work. Amid this cultural footprint, rumors of a sequel titled Apocalypto 2 have emerged, fueled primarily by fan speculation and the proliferation of online content. These so-called trailers and promotional materials are entirely fan-created, often using AI-generated effects, remixed footage from unrelated films, and speculative storylines that imagine Jaguar Paw confronting new adversaries or supernatural challenges. While creative, these materials are not official productions and have no connection to Mel Gibson or the original production team. The phenomenon of these fan creations reflects broader trends in participatory media culture, wherein audiences actively extend, reinterpret, and reimagine narratives that resonate with them, blurring the boundaries between canon and creative homage. The continued interest in Apocalypto, and in speculative sequels, highlights the enduring appeal of the story's core elements: the immersive depiction of a world rarely portrayed in mainstream media, the emotionally charged survival narrative, and the philosophical engagement with questions of morality, civilization, and human resilience. Despite the popularity of fan content, however, no authoritative announcement has been made regarding a sequel, and any discussion of Apocalypto 2 must be understood as speculative rather than factual. Apocalypto remains a work that challenges viewers to engage both emotionally and intellectually. Its use of language, cultural detail, and narrative intensity creates a cinematic environment in which audiences are invited to contemplate the nature of society, the fragility of human institutions, and the enduring capacities for courage and survival. The journey of Jaguar Paw, his confrontations with both human and environmental threats, and his ultimate reunion with his family offer a lens through which broader questions about civilization, history, and personal agency can be explored. The story of Apocalypto 2 as it appears online today exists entirely in the realm of speculation, internet rumor, fan creativity, and viral videos that borrow footage from unrelated films to make it appear as though a sequel is in production. There has been no announcement from Mel Gibson, no production by a major studio, no official trailer, no confirmed release date, no verified cast list, and no real script in any public record. Instead, what has circulated online are fan-made or AI-generated trailers and concept videos that remix scenes from other films, add dramatic narration, and create an impression of continuity with the original Apocalypto. These videos often use evocative language and dramatic imagery to engage viewers and create a sense of anticipation. Despite the widespread circulation of these videos, the creators themselves have made it clear in descriptions and interviews that their content is meant as parody or conceptual storytelling rather than official promotional material for an actual film. These videos have garnered hundreds of thousands of views on platforms such as YouTube, social media networks, and various fan forums, demonstrating the power of digital media in shaping audience perception and blurring the line between fiction and reality. The phenomenon also reflects the enduring impact of the original film on global audiences, with viewers expressing curiosity about what might come next for the characters and story. The original film Apocalypto, released in 2006, serves as the foundation for these speculative discussions. Directed by Mel Gibson, who co-wrote the screenplay with Farhad Safinia, the movie was produced and directed by Gibson along with producer Bruce Davey. The film was shot primarily on location in Mexico with an entirely indigenous cast speaking Yucatec Maya, a language native to the Yucatan Peninsula. The intention was to create an immersive historical adventure that depicted life in a late Mesoamerican society facing internal collapse and external threats. The narrative follows Jaguar Paw, a young hunter whose peaceful village life is disrupted by a violent raid. During the attack, his father is killed, and Jaguar Paw along with others from his village is captured and taken toward the city for ritual sacrifice. He hides his pregnant wife and young child in a pit for their safety and begins a perilous journey to survive, escape his captors, and ultimately return to his family. The story explores themes of survival, courage, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of extreme danger. The film's depiction of the chase through dense jungles, encounters with natural hazards, and confrontations with human threats created a tense, immersive viewing experience that drew widespread attention from both audiences and critics. Apocalypto was filmed in several locations throughout Mexico, including Veracruz and the rainforests of Catemaco, and employed innovative cinematography to capture the intensity of the chase sequences and the richness of the jungle environment. The use of Yucatec Maya language added authenticity to the portrayal of the characters and their culture, while the visual storytelling emphasized realism and visceral tension. While some historians and cultural critics debated the accuracy of certain portrayals, the film was widely praised for its technical achievement, cinematography, and powerful performances. It grossed over $120 million worldwide on a budget of $40 million, making it both a commercial and critical success. The success of the film and the enduring interest in its story created fertile ground for speculation about a potential sequel, even though none has been officially announced. The ending of Apocalypto is particularly significant for the imagination of fans. After Jaguar Paw returns to his family and the immediate threat to their village is resolved, distant ships are seen on the horizon, symbolizing the arrival of foreign powers and a profound change in the world Jaguar Paw inhabits. This moment, though brief, opened the door for creative speculation about what might come next, inspiring fan narratives imagining the impact of European colonizers on the indigenous community. These speculative stories often envision Jaguar Paw as a central figure confronting new threats, balancing the responsibilities of leadership with the need to protect his family and culture. The idea of continuation builds on the tension between survival, cultural preservation, and adaptation in the face of powerful external forces. Fans and online content creators have expanded upon this premise with imaginative trailers, concept stories, and videos depicting a range of dramatic scenarios. Some envision Jaguar Paw growing into a seasoned leader, navigating political, social, and spiritual challenges as new threats emerge. Others focus on the arrival of foreign invaders, armed with advanced technology, disease, and unfamiliar strategies, creating tension and conflict within the community. These imagined narratives often explore themes of identity, resilience, and the consequences of historical upheaval, blending adventure with philosophical and ethical questions about survival and leadership. Despite their popularity, these stories remain speculative and are not based on any official screenplay or production by Mel Gibson or Associated Studios. They reflect the creativity and dedication of fans rather than industry-backed production efforts. The viral nature of these trailers and concept videos demonstrates the power of fan engagement in shaping cultural discourse. Using tools such as AI-generated narration, remixing footage from other films, and sophisticated video editing, creators have crafted materials that appear highly professional and can convince casual viewers that they are seeing genuine promotional content. The presence of recognizable cinematic techniques, musical scores, and thematic elements familiar from other blockbuster films can further blur the line between reality and fiction. Viewers often discuss these trailers on forums, social media platforms, and in comment sections, contributing to the rapid spread of misinformation or confusion about the existence of an actual sequel. Despite this, no official sources, including studio press releases or verified production announcements, have confirmed the creation of a sequel to Apocalypto. The continued speculation about Apocalypto 2 also highlights the broader trends in digital media where fan engagement, artificial intelligence, and remix culture intersect. The creation of viral trailers and imaginative plots allows communities of viewers to participate actively in storytelling, generating content that builds upon existing narratives. In this way, the film continues to inspire creative expression, dialogue, and debate, even as the official story remains unchanged. The online discourse surrounding Apocalypto 2 illustrates the capacity of contemporary media to extend a narrative beyond its original form and demonstrates how audience interest can sustain attention to a story long after its initial release. Fans continue to debate, imagine, and create material that explores hypothetical scenarios, which can sometimes be mistaken for official information due to the realistic quality of the content and the skill of its creators. Decades had passed since the harrowing journey of Jaguar Paw through the dense, unforgiving jungles of the Yucatan Peninsula. The echoes of his survival had become legend among the scattered tribes, stories whispered around flickering fires and etched into the walls of hidden caves, teaching children the values of courage, cunning, and unyielding resilience. From the fertile river valleys to the steep limestone cliffs where temples rose toward the sky, the lands were alive with the pulse of a civilization still vibrant but quietly fracturing, stretched thin by internal rivalries and the subtle encroachments of foreign explorers whose ships were rumored far beyond the horizon. It was into this world that Tikal, the grandson of Jaguar Paw, had been born. Unlike his grandfather, who had grown into heroism through sheer necessity, Tikal had been raised in a relative peace, nurtured by elders who recounted the exploits of the past and impressed upon him a heavy sense of duty. The boy learned early that survival was more than evasion, it was the understanding of people, of alliances, of the delicate balance between fear and respect. Tikal's village was a hidden enclave nestled deep within the foliage, accessible only by winding paths and secret waterways known to a handful of hunters and navigators. Here, the air was thick with the scent of damp earth and flowering orchids, the constant hum of insects, and the distant calls of exotic birds that seemed almost orchestral in their harmonies. It was a land both beautiful and lethal. A misstep could mean a twisted ankle, a jaguar in the night, or the collapse of a treacherous riverbank. The village itself was a marvel of ingenuity, with houses raised on stilts, thatched roofs woven tightly to ward off rain, and terraces carved into hillsides to cultivate maize, beans, and squash. Intricate murals depicting the cycles of life and the spirits of ancestors adorned the walls of communal buildings, while ceremonial plazas echoed with the footsteps of dancers and the rhythmic beat of drums that connected the living to the unseen world beyond. Tikal, now a young man, possessed the lithe strength and sharp instincts of a hunter, yet his mind was as keen as his body. He had trained under the village elders in tracking, archery, and hand-to-hand combat, but he had also been instructed in diplomacy, language, and the rituals that bound their people together. His closest companion was Ixchel, a warrior priestess of unmatched skill and insight, whose intellect was rivaled only by her courage. Together, they represented the next generation, capable of understanding both the old ways and the changing currents that threatened their existence. Ixchel, with her eyes that seemed to pierce through deception and her quiet confidence, had been a mentor and an equal in Tikal's training. In the stories and exercises of survival, she had challenged him, teaching him that brute force alone would never secure the future of their people. Understanding, strategy, and the careful cultivation of alliances were equally vital. The first signs of trouble came subtly, as most catastrophes do. Scouts returning from distant hills reported unusual movements, foreign objects glinting in the river, and unfamiliar banners raised over encampments that had once been considered neutral or allied. Rumors spread like wildfire. Strange, large boats had been spotted far along the coast, carrying men whose language was incomprehensible and whose intentions were uncertain. The elders debated whether these were traders, explorers, or invaders, but Tikal instinctively felt the tension that words could not fully describe. That night, under the canopy of stars, he paced along the edges of the village, feeling the pulse of the land beneath his bare feet and listening to the whispers of the wind through the trees, as if nature itself was warning him of a storm approaching. Conflict arrived sooner than anyone expected. One dawn, a contingent of raiders from a rival tribe, emboldened by the promise of plunder and seeking to assert dominance, descended upon Tikal's village. Their approach was methodical, not chaotic, indicating that they had studied the terrain and perhaps even received counsel from a trader among neighboring settlements. Tikal and Ixchel mobilized the villagers, setting traps along the riverbanks and using the dense foliage as cover. The battle was brutal and chaotic, arrows whistled past, spears clashed, and the air was thick with dust, blood, and the cries of the wounded. Tikal demonstrated the same cunning for which his grandfather had been renowned, leading groups of defenders through hidden paths to flank the raiders and reclaim key positions. Ixchel's strategy proved invaluable. She orchestrated diversions and utilized knowledge of the terrain to turn the tide in moments that seemed impossible. By nightfall, the raiders were driven off, but the victory came at a cost. Several villagers were lost, and the sense of vulnerability that had lain dormant was now painfully acute. This inciting conflict set the stage for a far larger challenge. Tikal's encounter with the raiders revealed that the fragile peace among the Mesoamerican city-states was unraveling, accelerated by external pressures. Rumors of white-skinned men arriving by ship, carrying weapons, animals, and strange tools, ignited fear and curiosity in equal measure. Tikal realized that survival now demanded more than defending their home. It required knowledge, alliances, and the courage to venture into territories long considered dangerous. Guided by the tales of his grandfather and the advice of spiritual elders, he began planning a journey to unite neighboring tribes and confront the growing threat. Along the way, Tikal would encounter warriors whose loyalty was uncertain, priests whose visions guided but also deceived, and landscapes that tested both body and spirit, rivers swollen with rain, jungles teeming with predators, and cliffs that fell sharply into shadowed valleys. As the journey commenced, Tikal and Ixchel encountered other tribes, some welcoming and others hostile. Each tribe possessed unique customs, languages, and skills, adding layers of complexity to Tikal's mission. Negotiations were delicate, requiring wisdom to discern truth from deception, courage to confront challenges, and diplomacy to forge temporary alliances that might be broken at any moment. Alongside these political struggles were personal trials. Tikal confronted the fear of failing his people, the weight of his grandfather's legacy, and the growing awareness that the world he knew was changing irrevocably. Ixchel, meanwhile, balanced her own sense of duty with her growing bond with Tikal, creating tension between personal desire and communal responsibility. The first act of Apocalypto 2 concluded with Tikal witnessing the arrival of the foreign ships on distant shores, a moment that both terrified and galvanized him. He understood that the survival of his people depended not only on martial skill but on the ability to unite disparate tribes, interpret omens, and anticipate the unpredictable strategies of both internal and external enemies. The jungle, once a place of home and training, had now become the arena of war, diplomacy, and the unfolding story of a generation shaped by the shadows of the past yet facing an uncertain future. Apocalypto, directed by Mel Gibson and released in 2006, is a historical action drama set in the early 16th century, focusing on the decline of the Maya civilization just before the arrival of European colonizers in Central America. The film is remarkable for its decision to tell the story almost entirely in the Yucatec Maya language, relying on subtitles for international audiences, which created an immersive and authentic experience rarely seen in mainstream cinema. The film opens with a scene of life in a small Maya village, introducing viewers to a community that is peaceful, self-sufficient, and deeply connected to the natural world around them. Their lives revolve around hunting, gathering, farming, and spiritual practices that tie them closely to the cycles of nature. The central protagonist, Jaguar Paw, is a young, agile hunter with a keen sense of loyalty and family responsibility, and he is depicted as someone who is highly skilled in navigating the dense jungle that surrounds his village, capable of tracking prey and avoiding natural dangers with remarkable precision. From the very beginning, the audience is made aware of the tension between the village's relative isolation and the larger, more violent world beyond, as rival tribes and social hierarchies exert their influence across the region. The initial sequences establish a sense of rhythm and continuity in village life, highlighting communal gatherings, hunting rituals, and the strong bonds of kinship that define the social fabric. This sense of peace is shattered when a raiding party from a distant, more militarized Maya city arrives. The raiders attack with brutal efficiency, killing many villagers and capturing others for the purpose of human sacrifice, which was a common element in certain Maya rituals. Jaguar Paw is taken along with other members of his community and faces the grim prospect of ritual execution. This pivotal moment sets in motion the central narrative of the film. Jaguar Paw must use his intelligence, courage, and survival skills to escape captivity and navigate a dangerous and unforgiving jungle environment in order to save himself and return to his family. The journey is both literal and symbolic, representing the struggle of the individual against systemic forces, the tension between civilization and nature, and the enduring human instinct for survival and protection of loved ones. As Jaguar Paw flees through the jungle, the film depicts numerous obstacles and threats, including treacherous terrain, wild animals, and the relentless pursuit of his captors. Gibson's direction emphasizes the physicality of survival, using long, unbroken shots that convey both the beauty and danger of the environment. The cinematography plays a crucial role in immersing viewers in the narrative, with sweeping shots of dense foliage, rushing rivers, and cliffside escapes, creating a sense of constant motion and tension. Sound design complements the visuals, with a rich tapestry of natural sounds, birds, flowing water, and rustling leaves, heightening the realism and the feeling of being present in the jungle alongside the protagonist. Throughout the escape, Jaguar Paw demonstrates not only physical skill but also mental acuity. He uses traps, stealth, and knowledge of the terrain to evade his pursuers. This cleverness underscores a recurring theme of the film, the triumph of intelligence, adaptability, and determination over brute force. Moreover, his journey highlights the importance of cultural knowledge, as Jaguar Paw relies on traditional survival techniques and an intimate understanding of his environment that has been passed down through generations. The juxtaposition of his personal resourcefulness against the organized brutality of his captors reflects larger societal dynamics, emphasizing both the vulnerabilities and strengths inherent in human communities facing systemic collapse or external threat. Parallel to the physical journey is the emotional and spiritual dimension of Jaguar Paw's experience. He is constantly motivated by thoughts of his family, particularly his pregnant wife and young son, which provides an emotional anchor for the audience and intensifies the stakes of his survival. The film frequently returns to moments of reflection and prayer, illustrating the spiritual depth of Maya culture and its integration into daily life. Jaguar Paw's connection to his ancestors and the spiritual world guides his actions and decisions, reinforcing the film's depiction of a civilization where belief, ritual, and everyday existence are inseparably linked. One of the most striking aspects of the original Apocalypto is its depiction of violence and its unflinching portrayal of the brutality of human societies. The raiding sequences, struggles for survival, and moments of sacrifice are graphic and intense, designed to confront viewers with the realities of life and death in a world governed by hierarchical power structures and ritualistic practices. This level of realism distinguishes the film from more sanitized portrayals of history, providing a visceral sense of danger and urgency that permeates the entire narrative. It also invites reflection on the cyclical nature of violence and the consequences of societal imbalance, themes that resonate beyond the historical setting of the film. The historical context of Apocalypto is important to understand, even if the film takes certain creative liberties. The Maya civilization, once dominant across large parts of Central America, was experiencing significant decline due to factors such as environmental degradation, internal political conflict, and warfare between city-states. While the film does not aim to provide a comprehensive historical account, it effectively captures the tension and fragility of societies on the brink of collapse. The arrival of Europeans, hinted at in the closing sequences of the film, signals a major cultural and historical transition that would alter the fate of indigenous civilizations forever, framing Jaguar Paw's personal story within a broader historical moment of upheaval and change. The production of Apocalypto was ambitious, requiring extensive research into Maya culture, language, and geography. Mel Gibson and his team worked closely with linguists to accurately render the dialogue in Yucatec Maya, a decision that contributes to the film's authenticity and immersion. Costumes, sets, and props were designed to reflect archaeological and ethnographic knowledge of the period, while action choreography and stunt work were meticulously planned to ensure realism and continuity. The film's music, composed to evoke traditional instruments and rhythms, further enhances the sensory experience, blending with natural sounds to create a soundscape that feels both historically grounded and dramatically compelling. Apocalypto received critical acclaim for its technical achievements, direction, and immersive storytelling, though it also sparked debate about historical accuracy and representation. Some critics praised the film's intensity and visual storytelling, highlighting its ability to place audiences directly in the world of the Maya, while others questioned certain portrayals of cultural practices and the simplification of complex societal dynamics. Nevertheless, the film remains a landmark in cinematic history for its bold approach to language, narrative, and the depiction of indigenous life. The idea of a sequel, often referred to as Apocalypto 2 in fan circles, emerges from the unresolved narrative potential suggested by the original film. While Jaguar Paw's immediate story concludes with his survival and the return to his family, the looming presence of European colonizers invites speculation about the next chapter. Fans have imagined scenarios in which he confronts new threats, navigates changing political landscapes, and faces moral and ethical dilemmas shaped by contact with outside forces. These fan-made narratives often explore themes of cultural survival, resistance to oppression, and adaptation to rapidly changing circumstances, extending the emotional and thematic resonance of the original film into hypothetical storylines. Fan engagement has produced a variety of creative outputs, including videos, trailers, and concept art labeled as Apocalypto 2. These works use editing software, AI-generated visuals, and voiceovers to create the illusion of a professional sequel. While visually impressive and narratively compelling, these creations are not official and should be understood as speculative interpretations inspired by the original film. They reflect the passion and imagination of the fan community and demonstrate how digital media enables audiences to participate actively in world-building and storytelling. The fan-made sequels typically depict Jaguar Paw as a more mature and strategic figure, navigating not only physical threats but also complex social and political dynamics within and beyond his community. Themes often include resistance against foreign invaders, intertribal diplomacy, spiritual guidance, and personal sacrifice. Imagined storylines expand the scale of the narrative, incorporating larger battles, cultural rituals, and mystical elements that deepen the thematic richness of the story, while maintaining continuity with the original film's focus on survival, family, and resilience. While speculation is abundant, it is important to emphasize that there is no confirmed production of Apocalypto 2. There has been no official announcement of a sequel by Mel Gibson or any associated studios. Release dates, cast lists, and plot details circulating online are purely fan-generated. The persistence of rumors highlights the challenge of distinguishing between official media content and creative fan output, especially in an era where AI and digital editing tools can create highly realistic and persuasive media. The original film's impact on cinema and popular culture is significant. Its immersive approach to storytelling, linguistic authenticity, and unflinching portrayal of human conflict influenced both filmmakers and audiences, demonstrating the potential for films to explore complex historical settings with depth and intensity. It also sparked discussions about representation, historical accuracy, and the role of entertainment in educating and engaging audiences with cultural histories. These conversations continue to inform how fans and critics alike imagine potential sequels, further fueling creative speculation and engagement. In conclusion, while Apocalypto 2 does not exist as an official sequel, the original film provides a rich foundation for imagination. The detailed depiction of Maya life, the compelling journey of Jaguar Paw, and the open-ended historical context inspire fans to envision what might come next. These speculations, while unofficial, reflect the enduring fascination with the story, the characters, and the historical period, underscoring the power of cinema to inspire ongoing dialogue and creative participation long after a film's release. The legacy of Apocalypto remains strong, and any potential sequel, if ever made, would have a high standard to meet in continuing the emotional, cultural, and historical depth of the original narrative. As the story progresses beyond the climactic battles, the film shifts focus to the intricate lives of the characters who survived, allowing audiences to explore the nuanced aftermath of conflict and the complex process of cultural restoration. Kinich, though victorious in the external struggles, faces the subtler challenges of leadership, rebuilding trust among fractured tribes, restoring spiritual and social practices, and mediating disputes born out of years of tension and rivalry. These sequences are deliberately paced to highlight the psychological and societal consequences of survival, emphasizing that the real battle extends beyond the battlefield and into the hearts and minds of those who endure. Ixchel emerges as a guiding force during this reconstruction period. Her intimate knowledge of sacred traditions and medicine becomes instrumental in restoring the physical and spiritual well-being of the community. Through her guidance, the characters perform cleansing ceremonies, reconstruct temples, and re-establish rituals that honor their ancestors. These scenes are visually and narratively rich, depicting both the grandeur of ceremonial observances and the personal dedication required to maintain cultural continuity. Ixchel's relationship with Kinich matures further during this period, evolving from mutual respect to a partnership grounded in shared responsibility and emotional resonance, highlighting the human dimension of leadership and survival. Ahol's journey is equally compelling. Having witnessed the consequences of past rivalries and personal vendettas, he becomes a mentor not only to Kinich but to younger warriors emerging from the chaos. His character arc emphasizes redemption and the cultivation of wisdom through experience. He shares stories of past failures and lessons learned, framing them within the larger context of Maya philosophy and morality. These reflective sequences offer audiences a chance to pause amidst the ongoing tension, appreciating the depth of cultural knowledge and the emotional gravity of the characters' experiences. Yaxkin's role in the aftermath introduces a complex narrative of reconciliation and strategic alliance. Initially perceived as duplicitous, Yaxkin demonstrates that his actions, though morally ambiguous, are driven by a vision for long-term survival and unity. He helps negotiate truces among rival factions and facilitates trade agreements that ensure the stability of the recovering civilization. His arc reinforces the film's recurring theme: survival and prosperity require both courage and the ability to navigate moral ambiguity. The interplay among these central figures forms the emotional and intellectual core of the narrative, balancing action with introspection. One of the most compelling aspects of this imagined sequel is its attention to environmental storytelling. The filmmakers envision the jungle itself as a living entity, reflecting the cyclical nature of life and the interdependence between humans and their environment. Scenes depicting seasonal changes, the flourishing of flora and fauna, and the natural renewal of the landscape serve as metaphors for resilience and the regenerative power of communities. These sequences also provide a visual rhythm that complements the narrative, emphasizing that survival is not merely a personal struggle but a harmonious negotiation with the natural world. The film further delves into cultural intricacies through detailed portrayals of rituals, festivals, and daily life within the Maya society. Audiences witness the preparation of ceremonial feasts, the crafting of ceremonial garments, and the teaching of young members about oral traditions and sacred stories. These depictions are carefully imagined to balance authenticity with narrative engagement, immersing viewers in a civilization rich with symbolism, knowledge, and communal bonds. Each ritual or festival is interwoven with character development and plot progression, reinforcing the centrality of culture in shaping identity and guiding action. Subplots enrich the narrative, including the challenges faced by secondary characters who survived the initial conflict. Young warriors are trained under Kinnich's guidance, learning not only combat skills but also strategic thinking and moral discernment. Families reunite, but scars, both emotional and physical, remain, highlighting the long-term impact of violence and upheaval. These arcs underscore the theme that survival is a continuous journey, requiring persistence, empathy, and adaptability. They also expand the narrative scope, allowing for a broader exploration of the civilization's societal structure and values. The imagined soundtrack continues to play a central role in shaping the atmosphere. Rhythmic drumming, wind instruments, and natural sounds create an immersive auditory landscape, guiding emotional responses and enhancing tension. Music punctuates key moments, from contemplative scenes of rebuilding and reflection to intense sequences of conflict and strategy, providing cohesion to the sprawling narrative. The combination of traditional instruments and cinematic scoring bridges historical authenticity with modern storytelling techniques, offering audiences a multidimensional sensory experience. Visually, the production design maintains meticulous attention to detail, capturing both the splendor and harshness of the Maya environment. Temples, plazas, and residential compounds are reconstructed with elaborate designs, reflecting historical research while serving narrative functions. Ceremonial attire and weaponry are carefully designed to highlight individuality and societal roles, allowing the audience to understand hierarchical structures, spiritual significance, and interpersonal dynamics. This attention to authenticity reinforces the immersive quality of the imagined sequel, making the world tangible and compelling. The film also addresses moral and philosophical themes, particularly the tension between individual ambition and collective well-being. Kinnich faces difficult choices that challenge his principles, requiring him to balance personal loyalty, justice, and strategic necessity. These dilemmas provide depth to the narrative, emphasizing that leadership is not merely a matter of physical prowess but also of ethical discernment and emotional intelligence. Audience engagement is heightened as viewers consider the implications of each decision, reflecting on broader questions of morality, legacy, and societal responsibility. As the narrative approaches its resolution, the film interweaves multiple story threads, culminating in a climactic sequence that blends action, ritual, and emotional closure. Rival factions come together under Kinnich's guidance, ceremonial rites are completed, and the cycle of renewal is symbolically reinforced through visual motifs of nature reclaiming the land. The conclusion emphasizes continuity, showing that while challenges persist, the resilience of culture and community endures. The story closes on a note of hope and reflection, celebrating the strength, ingenuity, and spiritual depth of the Maya civilization, leaving audiences with a lasting impression of both spectacle and meaning. The narrative and thematic richness of Apocalypto is further reinforced by its exploration of the natural environment as both a literal and symbolic force. The jungle in which Jaguar Paw navigates is not merely a backdrop but an active participant in the story, shaping his choices, testing his resilience, and presenting a spectrum of challenges that range from treacherous terrain to unpredictable wildlife. Every scene in the forest emphasizes the duality of nature. It is nurturing, providing shelter and sustenance, and simultaneously threatening, capable of inflicting death and injury at any moment. This interplay between character and environment serves to heighten tension, amplify stakes, and deepen the viewer's engagement, as audiences are made to feel the physicality of survival in a hostile yet beautiful world. The visual composition of these sequences, coupled with the sound design of rustling leaves, rushing water, and distant animal calls, creates an immersive sensory experience that situates the audience within the immediacy of Jaguar Paw's peril. One of the film's most compelling qualities lies in its attention to the psychological and emotional dimensions of its protagonist. Jaguar Paw's journey is not solely physical but also deeply internal. The trauma of losing his community, the fear for his family's safety, and the relentless pressure of being pursued all serve to shape his character arc. The audience witnesses his ingenuity in crafting makeshift tools, his attentiveness to environmental cues, and his ability to anticipate the movements of his pursuers. These moments highlight his intelligence, adaptability, and resilience, reinforcing the notion that survival is as much a product of mental acuity as physical skill. Through Jaguar Paw, the film examines the human capacity to endure under extreme circumstances, demonstrating that courage and resourcefulness emerge in response to acute adversity. The portrayal of violence in Apocalypto is both graphic and narratively integral. The attacks, sacrifices, and skirmishes depicted in the film are deliberately unflinching, reflecting the harsh realities of life and death within the context of the story. Rather than serving as gratuitous spectacle, these moments function to underscore the stakes of survival and the moral complexities of a society where ritualized violence is institutionalized. The audience is invited to grapple with ethical questions surrounding power, cultural norms, and the consequences of societal structures that condone cruelty. By presenting these scenes with stark realism, the film challenges viewers to confront the visceral consequences of human behavior, making the narrative impact more immediate and emotionally resonant. The film also examines the intersection of spirituality and power within Maya society. The rituals depicted, particularly those surrounding sacrifice, illuminate the ways in which religious beliefs and political authority are intertwined. Leaders are portrayed as wielding both temporal and spiritual power, and the moral authority they claim is maintained through fear, ritual, and the enforcement of social hierarchies. This depiction raises questions about the function of religion and ritual in sustaining or destabilizing a society, offering a lens through which to explore broader historical and philosophical themes. Jaguar Paw's defiance of these structures, his escape, and his ultimate survival challenge the established order, symbolically representing the possibility of agency and resistance in the face of overwhelming institutional power. Language plays a critical role in Apocalypto, shaping the film's cultural authenticity and narrative texture. The choice to employ the Yucatec Maya language, spoken exclusively by the characters without subtitles that reduce its richness, underscores the film's commitment to immersive storytelling. This linguistic fidelity conveys not only a sense of place but also a connection to cultural identity, reinforcing the distinction between the protagonist's world and contemporary audience's experience. Dialogue, gestures, and nonverbal communication are utilized to convey emotion, intent, and social dynamics, creating a multilayered narrative that operates both linguistically and visually. By centering the film's language and cultural markers, the filmmakers elevate indigenous perspectives and challenge mainstream cinematic norms that often marginalize non-English narratives. Cinematography is pivotal to the film's impact. Dean Semler's camera work employs dynamic tracking shots, close-ups, and wide-angle compositions to establish both intimacy and scale. The audience is invited to traverse the jungle alongside Jaguar Paw, feeling the claustrophobic tension of dense foliage and the expansive freedom of open rivers and cliffs. The framing of the Maya city contrasts with the jungle's organic chaos, presenting human architectural achievement alongside moral decay. The cinematography's balance of grandeur and immediacy allows viewers to inhabit both the macro and micro scales of the narrative, simultaneously appreciating the enormity of civilization and the intimacy of individual struggle. Music and sound design complement the visual storytelling. James Horner's score incorporates rhythmic, percussive elements that echo the heartbeat of the jungle, reinforcing the tension and pace of action sequences. Subtle ambient sounds, the chirping of birds, the rush of water, the rustle of leaves, serve not merely as background but as narrative instruments that heighten suspense, convey emotional states, and anchor the film's sense of place. The combination of score and sound design produces an aural environment that parallels the visual immersion, ensuring that audiences experience the narrative on multiple sensory levels. The film's depiction of social hierarchy, leadership, and human behavior reflects a deep engagement with anthropology and history, though it remains a work of fiction. Leaders are portrayed as authoritarian figures whose authority is both ritualized and militarized. Soldiers and captors enforce social and religious norms through coercion and violence. The city's inhabitants navigate a complex web of allegiance, fear, and ambition, illustrating the dynamics of power and the consequences of social structures that prioritize control over compassion. Jaguar Paw's interactions with these societal elements highlight his ingenuity, moral discernment, and adaptability, emphasizing that survival in such a context requires not only physical skill but also strategic and ethical judgment. The impact of Apocalypto extends beyond narrative and aesthetics to engage with broader questions of historical representation. While some scholars and critics have debated the historical accuracy of the rituals, architecture, and social structures depicted in the film, these discussions underscore the challenge of translating complex ancient civilizations into cinematic form. The filmmaker's choices balance narrative urgency with cultural specificity, seeking to evoke the spirit of the Maya world while crafting a compelling story for contemporary audiences. This tension between historical fidelity and dramatic necessity exemplifies the broader challenge inherent in historical cinema, to honor past realities while delivering emotionally and narratively satisfying experiences. In the wake of Apocalypto's release, speculation about a sequel, often labeled Apocalypto 2, emerged within online communities. These narratives, however, are entirely speculative, created by fans who imagine the continuation of Jaguar Paw's story. Fan trailers employ creative editing, AI-generated imagery, and borrowed footage from other films to construct scenarios in which Jaguar Paw confronts new challenges, such as foreign invaders or mythological threats. While these creations reflect a deep engagement with the original film's world and themes, they remain unofficial and have no connection to Mel Gibson, the original production team, or any verified studio. This phenomenon illustrates the participatory culture of modern media consumption, where fans actively contribute to the extension and reinterpretation of beloved stories. The fascination with a potential sequel is rooted in the enduring appeal of Apocalypto's narrative elements, the visceral survival story, the rich cultural context, the immersive environment, and the emotional journey of the protagonist. Fans are drawn to the possibilities of continued storytelling, exploring new dimensions of conflict, adaptation, and moral inquiry within the established framework of Jaguar Paw's universe. Nevertheless, any discussion of Apocalypto 2 must be contextualized as speculative, with no confirmed production or distribution plans to date. The legacy of Apocalypto lies in its capacity to provoke thought and elicit emotional engagement. Its exploration of survival, cultural integrity, moral decision-making, and historical transition continues to resonate with audiences. By centering indigenous language and performance, the film challenges conventional cinematic hierarchies and invites reconsideration of whose stories are told and how they are represented. Jaguar Paw's journey embodies universal themes of courage, resilience, and familial devotion, allowing the narrative to transcend its historical setting and speak to contemporary human experience. The film's influence extends into broader conversations about cinema's role in representing history and culture. Apocalypto demonstrates that mainstream films can embrace linguistic, cultural, and narrative authenticity without sacrificing entertainment value. Its approach encourages filmmakers and audiences alike to consider the importance of narrative perspective, cultural fidelity, and the ethical responsibilities inherent in depicting past societies. By providing an immersive window into the Maya world, the film underscores cinema's potential to educate, inspire, and challenge prevailing assumptions about history, identity, and human behavior. The imagined sequel begins with Jaguar Paw several years after his escape from captivity and reunion with his family. In these fan-generated scenarios, he has grown from a survivor into a seasoned leader who understands the delicate balance between protecting his community and preserving their cultural identity. While the original Apocalypto focused on the immediacy of survival and the visceral intensity of life in the jungle, the sequel narratives often expand the scope to include long-term challenges faced by the community, including environmental pressures, internal conflicts, and the looming presence of foreign invaders. These scenarios depict a more mature Jaguar Paw, one who has learned from past hardships but is forced to confront new and unprecedented dangers. In the imagined narratives, his leadership is tested not only physically but morally, as he must make decisions that affect the lives of many and shape the destiny of his people. One of the central elements in the fan speculations is the arrival of foreign colonizers. In the original film, the final scene hints at the arrival of ships on the horizon, which many interpret as the approach of the Spanish conquistadors. In Apocalypto 2 narratives, this moment becomes the catalyst for the story, representing the introduction of external forces that disrupt the relative stability Jaguar Paw has achieved. These invaders bring with them advanced weapons, unfamiliar tactics, and diseases that pose an existential threat to the community. The narratives explore the tension between technological superiority and indigenous knowledge, depicting how a community that has survived for generations must adapt to survive in the face of new challenges. This theme allows storytellers to explore the broader consequences of historical encounters between civilizations and the resilience of cultural identity under pressure. The speculative plots also frequently introduce spiritual and mystical elements, emphasizing the connection between Jaguar Paw and his ancestors. These elements may include visions, dreams, or omens that guide him in moments of uncertainty. The narratives often portray the jungle and natural environment as living forces that both challenge and support the protagonist, creating a sense of harmony and conflict with the world around him. Such storytelling devices enrich the narrative, providing depth to character development and reinforcing the themes of survival, adaptation, and leadership. While these elements are purely imaginative and have no official basis, they reflect fan interest in exploring the philosophical and symbolic aspects of the story, adding layers to the narrative that were only hinted at in the original film. Another recurring motif in imagined sequel scenarios is the intergenerational aspect of the story. Fans frequently explore the relationship between Jaguar Paw and his child, who is growing up in a world threatened by new external forces. These narratives highlight the responsibilities of passing knowledge, cultural values, and survival skills from one generation to the next. Jaguar Paw is often depicted teaching his child not only practical skills but also the moral and ethical lessons he has learned through experience. This theme resonates with audiences by emphasizing the continuity of cultural identity, the importance of mentorship, and the inevitability of change in the face of historical forces. The intergenerational perspective adds emotional depth to the story, allowing the narrative to explore both personal and societal dimensions of survival. Fan-created content frequently incorporates dramatic depictions of battles and conflicts between Jaguar Paw's community and invading forces. These sequences are often visually elaborate, drawing on cinematic techniques used in other films to create tension, suspense, and spectacle. The action may include ambushes in the jungle, strategic defensive maneuvers, and daring escapes, highlighting both the ingenuity of the indigenous characters and the overwhelming challenges they face. In addition to the physical conflicts, the imagined stories often explore psychological and emotional struggles, emphasizing the trauma, fear, and courage experienced by the characters. This combination of physical and emotional tension enriches the narrative, providing a more comprehensive exploration of the human experience in extreme circumstances. In addition to action and survival, the speculative plots often explore themes of cultural preservation and identity. The arrival of foreign powers introduces the risk of cultural erasure, forcing characters to confront questions about what it means to maintain their traditions in a rapidly changing world. Jaguar Paw is frequently portrayed as a symbol of resilience, embodying the struggle to preserve language, rituals, and knowledge in the face of external pressures. These narratives allow storytellers to examine historical dynamics through a creative lens, imagining how indigenous communities might respond to the challenges posed by colonization and cultural displacement. While speculative, these stories engage with important historical and cultural questions, reflecting the ongoing interest in understanding the experiences of peoples who faced monumental changes in their societies. The narratives also explore the ethical dilemmas faced by leaders in times of crisis. Jaguar Paw must make decisions that weigh the immediate safety of his family and community against long-term survival and cultural preservation. These decisions are rarely straightforward and often involve difficult trade-offs. Fan-created stories emphasize the complexity of leadership, illustrating how a protagonist must balance personal desires, familial obligations, and societal responsibilities. By presenting these dilemmas, the narratives provide a deeper understanding of character development, highlighting the qualities that make a leader effective under pressure. They also allow audiences to engage with philosophical questions about morality, responsibility, and the consequences of actions in times of uncertainty. In many fan interpretations, the sequel narrative incorporates elements of exploration and discovery. Jaguar Paw and his community may encounter new environments, interact with neighboring groups, and confront previously unknown threats. These elements expand the story beyond the immediate setting of the jungle, providing opportunities for world-building and thematic exploration. The journeys undertaken by the characters often serve as metaphors for growth, adaptation, and resilience, illustrating the challenges inherent in navigating a world undergoing dramatic transformation. By exploring new environments and challenges, the imagined sequel extends the scope of the original narrative, allowing for a richer and more expansive storytelling experience. Fan-generated Apocalypto 2 trailers often use advanced editing techniques to enhance the visual and emotional impact of the story. Clips are frequently combined with music, narration, and visual effects drawn from other sources to create a sense of continuity with the original film. The realism of these trailers can be convincing, leading some viewers to believe that a sequel is in production. However, careful analysis reveals that the content is not derived from official production materials but is instead a creative reconstruction by fans. These trailers reflect the skill and dedication of the online community, demonstrating how digital tools can be used to extend narratives beyond their original form and to engage audiences in imaginative speculation. The viral interest in Apocalypto 2 underscores the lasting impact of the original film on popular culture. Despite the absence of an official sequel, audiences continue to engage with the story and its characters through fan fiction, artwork, discussion forums, and social media. This engagement demonstrates the enduring power of narrative to inspire creative expression and collective imagination. While the original film focused on a single character's struggle for survival, the imagined sequel expands the scope to explore broader social, cultural, and historical themes, reflecting the ongoing fascination with the story and its potential continuations. Tikal set out at first light, the jungle awakening around him with a symphony of life. Vines swayed in the morning breeze, birds called across the canopy, and distant waterfalls thundered into shadowed ravines. Accompanied by Ixchel and a small group of trusted warriors, he moved silently through narrow paths and hidden river channels, guided by the memory of his grandfather's journeys and the oral maps passed down by the elders. Each step was measured, for the jungle was not merely a backdrop but a living, reactive force. Predators watched from the underbrush, and sudden floods or treacherous mud could halt their progress or claim the unwary. The first tribe they encountered was the Itza, a proud people inhabiting the highlands, whose villages clung to steep terraces overlooking the valleys below. The Itza were known for their expert archers and intricate knowledge of herbal medicine, yet they were wary of outsiders, especially after recent raids. Initial negotiations were tense. Tikal presented gifts, recounted the valor of his grandfather, and appealed to shared ancestry and mutual survival. Ixchel demonstrated both wisdom and grace, interpreting ceremonial signs and offering prayers to the spirits that guided the tribe. Slowly, trust began to form, though shadowed by suspicion. Tikal understood that one misstep could provoke hostility, yet he also sensed that the Etsa could become valuable allies if he succeeded in proving both strength and honor. The journey was punctuated by constant physical and emotional trials. The party crossed raging rivers using rope bridges, navigated labyrinthine caves where bats filled the air with wings and echoing screeches, and climbed jagged cliffs that tested both courage and stamina. Each challenge reinforced Tikal's growing reputation among his companions as a leader who combined intelligence with courage. Ixchel's role was equally vital. Her sharp mind often discerned hidden dangers before they became threats, and her knowledge of rituals provided guidance, occasionally unveiling clues in the stars, animal behavior, or the patterns of clouds that suggested imminent weather changes. As they traveled further, they encountered signs of foreign presence, broken trinkets, unfamiliar tools, and glyphs that seemed alien to the jungles they knew. These discoveries heightened the urgency of their mission, reminding them that the threat looming beyond their lands was both persistent and encroaching. Tikal began to understand that mere survival was insufficient. Strategic foresight and preparation were necessary to protect not only his village but the broader network of allied tribes. In the highlands, Tikal and Ixchel were approached by a rival warrior, Chimal, from a neighboring tribe with a reputation for cunning and ruthless efficiency. Initially hostile, Chimal challenged Tikal to a duel meant to test both skill and leadership. The encounter was intense, spears clashed, arrows whistled, and the air thrummed with tension. Yet, through a combination of agility, strategy, and an appeal to shared heritage, Tikal managed to earn Chimal's respect rather than his enmity. By demonstrating honor and restraint, he subtly forged a tentative alliance, illustrating that leadership required not only strength but also insight into human nature. Throughout these early acts, the narrative delved deeply into the spiritual and cultural tapestry of the Mesoamerican world. Ixchel led ceremonies invoking guidance from the ancestors, interpreting visions of jaguars, serpents, and hawks that foretold potential victories or dangers. The elders' stories intertwined with the immediate challenges, emphasizing that history was alive in every tree, river, and cliff. Tikal's connection to his grandfather's legacy became more pronounced as he understood that the survival of his people depended equally on respecting the past and anticipating the future. The first significant external challenge came when Tikal's group encountered a rival coalition of tribes that had allied with the foreign invaders. These tribes, motivated by fear, ambition, or promises of wealth, presented a formidable obstacle. Early skirmishes tested Tikal's tactical acumen, ambushes in dense bamboo forests, night raids along riverbanks, and daring rescues forced him to adapt quickly. The narrative showcased not only physical confrontations but also the psychological strain of leadership, deciding who to trust, when to fight, and when to retreat. Amidst the turbulence, moments of personal growth and human connection emerged. Tikal and Ixchel shared quiet conversations beneath starlit skies, discussing philosophy, dreams, and the weight of their responsibilities. Bonds formed between warriors from different tribes, fostered by mutual respect and the shared experience of survival. Cultural rituals, song, dance, and ceremonial storytelling, were depicted as both spiritual practice and practical teaching, ensuring that knowledge and values were passed to new generations even amidst chaos. By the conclusion of this section, Tikal had successfully secured preliminary alliances with the Etsa and other smaller tribes, gaining not only manpower but strategic knowledge of the surrounding lands. He had also recognized the growing sophistication and threat of the foreign forces, whose ships and weapons represented a danger unlike any previously faced. The stage was set for larger confrontations, as Tikal's expanding coalition would be tested against both internal betrayal and external invasion, challenging him to reconcile tradition with the rapidly changing world. This portion of the story emphasized the interconnectedness of landscape, culture, and leadership. Each village, forest, and river was not merely a setting but an active participant in the narrative, influencing outcomes and shaping decisions. The jungle, with its dangers and beauty, acted almost as a character itself, demanding respect and adaptability from all who traversed it. Tikal's journey highlighted the emergence of a new generation poised to carry forward the legacy of Jaguar Paw, blending courage, wisdom, and strategic thinking to meet challenges that spanned both the natural and political realms. The story of Apocalypto begins with a serene and vibrant depiction of village life in a small Maya settlement deep in the jungle. The villagers are shown engaged in everyday activities, children playing near huts, elders tending to crops, hunters preparing for the day, and families participating in communal meals. The audience is introduced to Jaguar Paw, a young, agile hunter who is devoted to his family and community. He is portrayed as resourceful, brave, and deeply connected to the rhythms of the natural world, able to track animals, navigate dense foliage, and survive in the unpredictable environment of the jungle. His interactions with his pregnant wife and young son emphasize his role as a protector, and they set up the emotional stakes that drive the narrative. The village itself is shown as harmonious and cooperative, with a clear understanding of social roles and a deep respect for the surrounding environment. Scenes of hunting demonstrate both skill and ritual, blending practical necessity with spiritual belief. These opening sequences establish a contrast between the safety and order of the village and the chaotic, dangerous forces that exist beyond it, creating tension and anticipation for the conflict that will soon disrupt this world. The turning point occurs when a raiding party from a distant city arrives, brutally attacking the village. The raiders are heavily armed, moving with speed and precision, and their presence immediately upends the peaceful life of Jaguar Paw's community. The villagers are unprepared for the violence, and many are killed or captured, including Jaguar Paw himself. This sequence is depicted with intense realism, showing the physicality of combat, the fear and confusion of the villagers, and the ruthlessness of the raiders. Jaguar Paw is forced to flee with a group of captives, bound and under constant threat of execution. The film emphasizes the stakes of survival and the fragility of human life, immersing the audience in the perilous journey ahead. As Jaguar Paw escapes, the narrative follows him through the jungle in a continuous series of tense and dramatic sequences. He faces natural hazards such as rivers, cliffs, and wild animals, which he must navigate using his wits and physical skill. At the same time, he is pursued by his captors, who are relentless and skilled trackers. These sequences highlight the theme of survival, showing how knowledge, agility, and perseverance can overcome even overwhelming odds. Jaguar Paw sets traps, hides in foliage, and uses the terrain to his advantage, demonstrating a combination of ingenuity and instinct honed by his upbringing in the jungle. The camera work and sound design heighten the tension, with long tracking shots, close-ups on action sequences, and the immersive sounds of the jungle creating a palpable sense of danger. Throughout his journey, Jaguar Paw's motivation remains rooted in his family. Thoughts of his wife and child provide emotional grounding, and flashbacks or quiet moments emphasize the personal stakes of his survival. This connection underscores the central theme of the film, the endurance of love and loyalty in the face of chaos and violence. Jaguar Paw's determination to return to his family drives the narrative, and every decision he makes is influenced by the desire to protect them. This emotional throughline gives depth to the action, allowing the audience to invest not only in the physical challenges but also in the personal and moral dimensions of the story. Jaguar Paw's journey also provides insight into the broader cultural context of the Maya civilization. The film depicts various elements of daily life, spiritual practice, and societal organization. Villages are shown with communal structures, ceremonial areas, and intricate artwork, reflecting a rich cultural heritage. The narrative also portrays the hierarchical nature of larger Maya cities, where rulers and priests wield significant power and influence, and where human sacrifice is an accepted, though grim, part of ritual life. These depictions, while dramatized for cinematic effect, provide a backdrop that situates Jaguar Paw's individual story within a larger social and historical framework. The tension between village simplicity and city sophistication, as well as between individual freedom and societal demands, reinforces the themes of survival and moral choice. The character of Jaguar Paw is complemented by secondary characters who provide both support and challenge. His wife represents the emotional anchor of the story, embodying resilience, love, and hope. The young son serves as a symbol of continuity, the reason for Jaguar Paw's relentless pursuit of safety and survival. The raiders and their leaders are portrayed as formidable antagonists, skilled in combat and driven by a combination of ambition, tradition, and fear. These characters are multidimensional in their actions, reflecting the complexities of human behavior in times of social stress. The film avoids simplistic moralizing, instead presenting a spectrum of motivations and ethical choices, which adds richness to the narrative and invites reflection on the nature of power, violence, and cultural responsibility. As the plot unfolds, Jaguar Paw's ingenuity is tested repeatedly. He navigates rivers with makeshift rafts, climbs cliffs using natural footholds, and sets clever traps to slow or confuse his pursuers. Each sequence builds tension while illustrating his intimate knowledge of the environment, a skill that underscores the importance of cultural knowledge and lived experience. The physicality of these sequences also serves a symbolic function, representing the human capacity for adaptation and resilience.